Okay, this is APA tips number 2. So there's 3 things on here: how to do a reference for a chapter in an edited book, how to cite information that comes from a source that your source has already cited, and then where to put the period in a direct quote. Okay, let's start with the reference for a chapter in an edited book. You can look up here at the top. This is from the Handbook of Research on Teaching English Language Arts, and it is Lapp and Fisher are the editors, but the author of the chapter that you might be using is Timothy Rosinski. So you cite that with the last name and the first initial, the year of the publication, and then the title of the chapter. And the title of the chapter follows the capitalization rules, so you only capitalize the first word in this case. Then you give the editor's names. You use the word in with a capital, the editor's names using their first initial first instead of the backward way that we did here. So D. Lapp and D. Fisher, editors in parentheses, and then the name of the book, which again we're going to follow the capitalization rules. So the only word here that's capitalized is handbook and English because it's a proper noun. Then when you have multiple pages, you use the PP, little lowercase, rather than just one P. Those are the page numbers of that chapter that you're referencing. The place of publication, which here we can take off the New York State because everyone knows New York is in New York State, and then the publication house is Routledge. Okay. When you're citing information that your source has already cited, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. If it's a direct quote from another source, then you're not going to use that direct quote unless you go to the original source and see it, and then you can also quote it directly, but you would give a reference for that original source. Okay, if you're not going to quote it directly, or if your source, for example, the Mills textbook, does not quote it directly, but they credit this. So here's a quote from Mills on page 61, where he says something about guide you through your action research and includes the following 9 steps. So he credits Eliot from 1991 and Chemist in 1988. So if you were to use this information, you would want to indicate that you got it from Mills, the 2018 textbook, but that Mills got it from Eliot and Chemist. So you might do something like this. Mills, 2018, credits Eliot and Chemist, and you would put the dates of their publication, with coming up with 9 steps to complete an action research plan. So here you're paraphrasing what Mills has said. Then, if you want to, include direct quotes or paraphrase from the information that Mills has in that book about what the work that came originally from Eliot and Chemist. So you could either do a direct quote because he hasn't directly quoted them, or you could do a paraphrase of the information in those 9 steps. When you get to doing your reference, you would only reference Mills in your reference list, and you would not reference Eliot or Chemist because you did not look at those papers. And finally, when you're doing a direct quote, where do you put the period? So here's a direct quote from the same page of Mills, and here's the end of the sentence. And sometimes people make the mistake of putting a period there, but you do not put a period there. You put a period after the reference information. So the quote came from Mills, 2018, page 61, and then at the end of your parentheses you put your period. So just keep in mind, if you have a direct quote, you don't put the period inside the quotation mark. You put it at the end of the sentence. Okay, that's all. Check with you later.